Professor, first of all, how do you define the hate speech? How to define the border between the hate speech and the freedom of expression?
Yeah. First of all, I would say that also hate speech is in general covered by freedom of expression, but this right is not an absolute one. Yeah, it can be restricted in favor of the rights and freedom of others, or in the interest of the public. And so hate speech is a very strong form, yeah, of opinion. And there are some standards in Europe stating that any extreme opinions defamating people, inciting to violence, yeah, doing incitement against certain groups shouldn't be accepted by a democratic society. And we can see that there are a lot of recommendations and resolutions of the Council of Europe as well as of the European Union. And there's also a framework decision of the European Union prohibiting hate speech. Because hate speech is not only against the dignity of certain groups, of certain people, or of a certain religion, it's also against the basic elements, yeah, the basic values of democratic European societies, like social freedom, yeah, peace, understanding, international understanding, tolerance, yeah, respect towards others, and therefore there are a lot of, as I told, recommendations and resolutions prohibiting hate speech. That means for the courts and for the legal orders of member states of Council of Europe or European Union that they are obliged to establish a very concrete legislation restricting freedom of opinion and prohibiting any forms of hate speech. So far, there is no common concrete definition of what is hate speech, and the case law of the European Court of Human Rights and also of the European Court of Justice of the European Union shows very clearly that sometimes it's really difficult to find the right balance. Yeah, the balance between what should be free, which speech should be free, and which speech should be prohibited because it's an aggressive one and attacking people, defamating people, yeah? Inciting, calling for violence against certain groups. Yeah? And there are a lot of cases which have been decided by the European Court of Justice, of European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. And in that regard, yeah, I think I should refer to the European Convention of Human Rights, which is, as we know, guaranteeing the freedom of expression in Article 10 of the Convention, but also in Article 17 of this convention, we do have a very special regulation which has to be understood, yeah, based on the history of the convention, which is a very clear signal against any form of totalitarianism, of dictatorship, of Nazism, etc., etc. This Article 17 is on prohibition of abuse of rights. Yeah? May I summarize? Yeah? Nobody is allowed to refer to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, whenever the aim of this speech, of this expression, is aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms that was in the convention or at their limitation to a greater extent than is provided for in the convention. That means whenever somebody calls for or promotes the abolition of fundamental rights for a special group, whenever somebody is calling to discriminate certain groups, to expel them out of a country, then this person is not anymore allowed to refer to his or her freedom of speech. So this person would lose this very fundamental democratic human right, freedom of expression. So that's a very strong regulation in the convention, which is sometimes criticized as going too far, because it's against a very important democratic right, freedom of speech. This provision, I think, is a very clear signal of the convention in order to protect and to defend not only the fundamental rights, the human rights of others, but also the fundamental values of European democratic states. This is very clear stated by the European Court of Human Rights in its case law, arguing that also speeches which calls to abolish democracy, or groups who are running to restrict democratic structures, to establish a dominance of religion within a certain society, or people who are denying the Holocaust or denying crimes against humanity, denying genocide, would lose their right to freedom of expression based in the convention. So it's a very disputatious, protective, defensive regulation, and but which should be applied by the courts very carefully, because sometimes it can go too far, to decide that somebody shouldn't have the freedom to speech. Very clearly stated, but is also that any media, social media or classical media like journalists, have the right to report on any activities, any persons who are doing hate speech. There were some convictions of journalists who were reporting about racist activism, about hate speech, and they were convicted because they have reported on that. And the Strasbourg court very clearly stated that whenever such a media report is only reporting in a balanced manner about what happened, about hate speech and similar activities, it must be free, because it's important as a contribution to the debate within a democratic society about any forms of hate speech. The difference is that whenever a journalist would use such a case to promote hate speech, he or she, of course, could also be restricted in her his freedom of expression.